All right. So we're going to keep no names on this, but it says Dr. Garza on there. And we're going to do a training on 2 trackers, the PPO by Patients by Insurance tracker. So we're going to figure out the population of your practice that is in network with certain plans. And then we're going to do a training on the PPO write-off calculator to see what each of those trackers are costing you. So let's start. I'll just share my whole screen here. We're actually going to start. This is the second one. We're going to start with a different one. And so this is the PPO Patients by Insurance. Okay, this is the first tracker you want to do. And so no matter what your dental software is, it's going to give you a number of total active patients. You're going to plug that in right here. If it's inflated and not accurate, that's okay. All the numbers are going to be equally inflated. That's okay. All right. Now, if you want to take the time to inactivate all of your inactivated patients, go through your whole patient database, that's a good idea. But if you haven't done that, you don't have time, that's fine. We'll just get an active patient base here. Now, what you're going to do next is create a tab for every single insurance plan that you participate with. Okay. And you're going to go into your software and you're going to say, Open Dental, Dentrix, EagleSoft, how many patients do I have in Aetna? And you're going to export that list, okay, to your tab. You're going to copy and paste it into this tab here. And because it's Excel, you're going to have a whole list of names. Now, I'm not going to click on this because there's actually patient names in there, but you're going to have a whole list of numbers, and it's going to go down to the 34th line or 36th line, and you've skipped the top 2, and you're going to know how many patients you have. You can see there's a little formula in there to bring that number over. And then what it's going to do is it's going to divide total number of active patients by how many do you have in there, or vice versa. And it's going to give you a percentage of patients that are in that network. Now, you might have a lot more than this. These are alphabetical. You might have Guardian. You might have Blue Cross Blue Shield. All sorts of them. So you're just going to add them all in here, okay? Now, the reason that's important is I'm never going to address going insurance-free with more than 15% of your population at a time. We're going to spend 6 months talking to 16% of your practice. So every single patient, 34 of these, 61 of these, 31 of these, 61 of these, and so on. We're going to talk to every single one of these patients when they come in. Can you imagine if you try to do your whole practice? If you said, all right, we're going to talk to every single patient as they come in. You'd be talking to over half of your patient base every single time they walk through the door. You'd be exhausted. So we're not going to do that. We're going to talk to about 15, maybe 20% of your practice at a time over a 6-month period as they come in for their appointments. So it's really important for us to know this percentage so we can identify who's going to be targeted first. This will be phase 1. This is who we're going to resign from first, each of these plans, as long as it makes sense to do so financially. So let's look at tracker number 2. This is the PPO write-off calculator. Now, what I've done is I've taken the top 20 codes. I think there's 21 codes in here that people use, and I've given you room for 5 of those insurance plans. So you might need multiples of these, but it's just to give you an idea what the cost is per year for that plan to you. So what you'll do is you'll put your your UCR fees in this column, and then you can copy and paste that into each one of these tabs once you do that, right? So once I have these in here, if they're all correct, I can just go like this, and it's going to be the same. UCR fee is going to be the same on all of these, and copy and paste it over, okay? Then for that insurance, Aetna, let's say we chose Aetna. You can rename this to Aetna. You can rename this to Aetna. You can just type Aetna right in here if you want, okay? You're going to put their fee for each one of those same codes. It's going to calculate the difference dollar-wise and percentage-wise. That's going to give you a percentage of write-off. The reason that's important is, let's say this averages out to 27%. What that tells me is you can afford to lose 27% of those patients in that plan when you resign from that insurance plan. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then how do you figure out this green one? You're going to fill out the green ones, right? And how do you figure out the frequency? How many times do I do this? Well, that's where your population comes in. So you say, this is my Aetna plan. Okay. Well, how many times do I bill out a pro fee under Aetna? Well, what you do is you run a procedure code report for, say, the last 12 months. It's going to tell you how many times you billed out a 1110 in 12 months. You're going to divide that by 12. You're going to get 100 per hygienist or something, let's say. Let's say you got 100 pro fees you're billing out. It's a nice round number. Well, if statistics hold, then 2.4 of those 100 pro fees are going to be Aetna patients. So you'd come over here, and you'd say, all right, we do that 2.4 times. You could even get that specific if you want. It's going to give you a dollar amount that you lose per month for that plan on average. And you look at the report and it's going to say, all right, you did 30 perio maintenance every single month. Okay, well, what's 2.4% of 30? You'd have to do a little math, right? You go 30 times 2.4. Oops, 30 times 0.024. All right, so it's 1. So you get a 1 here for that plan. And it starts to calculate for you. And you just work down this frequency. It's going to take some time to do the homework for each plan. So I would start with the ones that you think are the most risky. Well, what are the most risky? The ones that are the highest populated one, okay, the biggest population that have the biggest write-offs. And you're going to kind of know that to start with, and this will confirm that. You'll go in and maybe start with Blue Cross Blue Shield here. Okay, it's going to give you a total dollar amount. Now, when we look at it, if your fees are really close, like let's say this is 100 and you barely do any of them and your write-off is really low, I'll say, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to tackle that one first. Maybe we tackle it later, but right now, let's not take the chance of losing some of these patients at this point, okay? So imagine, this was a much higher number with a much bigger write-off. We go, wow, scary because there's a lot of patients there, but the write-off's huge. What's your write-off percentage? 50%, 40%? Well, then you can afford to lose 40% of those patients. I have a client who has a DHMO. He gets a couple $1,000s a month to see these patients and charge nothing for them. His write-off is 100%. He could afford to lose 100% of them. I mean, in theory, he'd be losing $2,000 a month, but what's $2,000 a month? Why have those? It doesn't make any sense. So the math always works out to tell you what you ought to do. For example, on Delta, this office did not choose to tackle Delta. Why? Well, it was 40% of their practice. It's a big number. And when they went and did the write-off calculator, their fees were pretty close, actually. They actually had good fees with Delta. So even though the number looked big per year they were writing off, it wasn't that much per procedure and per month. And it was close enough for them to feel like, our membership, it's like our membership plan. It was right in that range. Now, it won't always be that case because the fees are going to go up, but Delta's not going to raise the fees, right? Yeah. So I blitzed through that. So you can watch this a couple times and understand how to do it. The hard parts are getting the number of patients. You're actually going to get a list of patients on these tabs of actual patients' names. And what's great about that, you're going to extrapolate that from your dental software, export it right into Excel here. And then what you're going to do every single time that patient comes in, we're going to have our insurance-free conversation with that patient. And then we're going to mark that they have a positive response or a negative response. And so we actually have a statistic in these tabs that says a 1 if they're positive or a 1 if they're negative. At the bottom, it says we had 61 patients. 45 of them had a positive response at the end of 6 months. And you'll know, hey, we're gonna resign from this plan now at month 6. We never send a letter, anything like that. So we figure out how to do it really, really well. We make sure it's very precise, low risk, high reward. This office, like I said, ended up producing the same 1.1 million a year, but instead of collecting, it was like 900,000 a year. They're now collecting, I'm sorry, it was like 800,000. They're now collecting like 1 million a year. So write-offs went from like 20% to 10% or something like that for the whole practice. So it's just so much better because I think that Delta fee was within 10% or something, but so much better. They're literally producing the same they ever were, but they're collecting like 200,000 more, 20% more. So we make sure that the math works for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. People are watching this now. It's been recorded. It's out there. What questions are they thinking about doing this, Dr. Garza? What do you think they're thinking right now? I went over something too fast. I confused you on something. What would they ask?
I mean, like for me, I don't know how to export that for my software, but
yes.
I think that's something that I can just look up and
you're going to look it up. You're going to contact your software company and you're going to say, all right, I need to run a report of all my patients that have Aetna. Okay. So I know how to do it in Dentrix. You go into Dentrix, you go into Office Manager, you want to go to letter field report. It's a letter field merge report. And you say, I want to select all my patients who have this insurance to this insurance. You go Aetna, the top one of the list alphabetically, Aetna A to Aetna Z. And you say, show me that list. And it just exports that list. You copy it into Excel. And now we get a number of that because it won't give you a number, just gives you a list of names. And then we plug that number in here. Okay. I wish I could show you these tabs, but I probably shouldn't because of HIPAA. So Even though we're not collecting a name to treatment, I just keep their names private and what insurance they have. Okay, make sense? Okay, so you'll contact Open Dental, right? You have Open Dental?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll show you how to run that report.
And they're, yeah.
Okay, then the second report you're going to want to really run, well, you have to run your fees report. You're going to run that to get these fees for both of these columns, but then you're going to want to know a procedure code analysis report. Show me all the fees I've done the last 12 months. That way you get a monthly average, divide it by 12, and you'll know how many times you've billed this code out every single month. And this frequency will match the percentage of which you see those people. So for every 100 times you do that single procedure for your whole practice, 2.4% of the time, it's under this plan. So you'd put a 2.4 in there. Now, if you did it 50 times a month, you'd put a 1.2, or like I did in this case, I did 1. Okay, if you go, all right, well, we do 150 these a month. Well, what's 2.4% of 150? That's, I'm gonna put a 4 in here. It's 3.6. Oops. So right here, put a 4, and it's gonna change the number for you. And by the time you do all your plans, you're gonna have a total for all those insurances, what they're costing, that 200,000, that 400,000, whatever it is. Make sense?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, that's it for this training. We'll stop recording.